I get asked this question a lot, what made you a feminist? I get asked that question quite a lot, but there is never a clear answer for me. It's really funny because there was no key moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm a feminist. I'm one of those. It didn't happen like that. It was a really sort of gradual thing that crept up on me and, it leads me with the notion that anyone can be a feminist and you don't know it might happen to you. In 2008, there were still those stereotypes being thrown at me by my housemates at the time. And the really strong stereotypes, and these are by educated people, that, I mustn't shave my legs and I must be a lesbian and all that kind of stuff. And it was a real cliche of me being like, yeah, I'm all for women's rights, but because I'm not this stereotype, I mustn't be a feminist. So it was just a case of me actually going out and doing really basic work and understanding that feminism is for everybody, to use a really nice quote. Yeah. Feminism to me, quite simply means equality, but there's so many complexities around that notion of equality, right? So equality for women, but equality for all different, for the intersections of different women as well. And equality looks different to different forms of feminism as well. So there's that notion of, feminisms, not just feminism, and there's a lot of disputes over that one word. So quite simply, it's the understanding and the fighting for equality. But you can take that to mean so many different things, and it's something that I'm constantly being educated on and being schooled on over and over again, is how equality looks to different people. So the understanding that there's not just one feminism, that there's many feminisms, comes from that notion of intersectionality and the understanding that feminists don't always agree. We don't have this once a monthly meeting where we sit down and decide what the agenda will be and what we're going to fight for the next, month or year or whatever else. So feminisms indicates traditionally, and if you want me to get academic, it indicates, the different schools of thought and the different waves that come along the activism that, sits within feminism. And so the idea that there's many feminisms is one that can be really overwhelming to someone that's just stepped into it, and intimidating when you get called out for it. I've talked to many people about when you first enter a feminist thing and you inevitably just fuck up. You just fuck up completely and you get called out for it, and it may be in a nice way or it may be in a really painful way that forces you to learn something, and you either retreat from that and learn from it, or you just completely leave and never come back, right? So that understanding of being called out and it being a painful process, but one that can really educate you, is good. But it's also having an approach that doesn't hurt new people to the cause, so to speak. So the understanding that you're making a choice, but it's affected by other things, is fairly central to, feminism in the 21st century. And it's, I think, just recognising that. So sure, you have a degree of agency, but you're also operating within an environment that's, influenced by the media, and everyone always thinks they're the one person that isn't influenced by the media, but of course they are. So, you're influenced by the media, you're influenced by your peers, you're influenced by other feminists, by other people that aren't feminists, by the patriarchy, right? So it's about making yourself aware of those things and knowing that your choice shouldn't limit other women. So the example that I really like to talk about is one of sex workers. And I'm not a sex worker, and I know other sex workers. I wouldn't ever go about representing them. But one thing that I've encountered over and over again when it comes to slut walk and people that are against sex workers is this idea that the understanding of sex workers influences how people see other women, which is really concerning, because it worries me that people are drawing these notions from a certain group of women that are working like other women do, and then projecting that onto all other women. It denies the agency of audience members and society in general to draw their own conclusions and separate out sex workers are doing this for money. Not all women can be bought, and there is a very distinct, difference between the two. So that's a really good example. And it's one that some groups, some activist groups, some groups of, feminists talk about all the time, saying we are against sex work because we believe that this really marginalises and misrepresents all women, which is really concerning and just not true. People have more agency than that. I hate the saying, what if it was your mother or your sister or your daughter? I think it's bullshit. And I actually wish we would stop having that or stop relating it back to the women around you. But use your imagination and think, if it was you, like actually get some education up here, go and read the statistics, go and look at the facts of what women in different parts of the world live through and endure every day because they are simply women. Look at that sort of discrimination. So go and do some reading, go and examine, the statistics of family violence, look at how women are represented in the mainstream media compared to others, look at the gender pay gap in different countries, look at the countries in which there've never been a woman prime minister, which up until, 6 or 7 years ago, that would have also been us. Look at the minorities of, women of colour, women who are sex workers, trans women. Look at how much worse off they are. And then use your imagination and think there is, it is simply luck that I am a man or that I am part of this privileged minority. Just as much as it is luck that I am sitting here in this country today, it is luck that people are born to be white, straight, cis men. There is no choice there. Feminism has given me a right to have my own voice and a way to have my own voice. It's given me a way to have a voice that wasn't necessarily seen as me being labelled as outspoken or obnoxious or, anything else, or bossy. Bossy was the big one when I was growing up, because it was just me having a right to an opinion, which is what every other male in the world is entitled to, so why shouldn't I? I do get exhausted and burnt out quite often, as do a lot of my friends. You don't like to admit that it actually takes a toll on you, but of course it does. Of course it takes a toll on me when I don't have the sort of freedom to move about in the world the same as my white, straight male partner does. He can go for a run at night. He can expect to not be catcalled in public. I can't. And as much as I try and repeat that stuff back to him and to other people in my life, it's not the same if you're not living it. I really hate that critique of there being a feminist bubble that you can't, or, activist bubbles in general that you can't step outside of, because the real world for that is just a safe space. There are people that rub up against each other constantly, and there are views which there is constantly tension. And there is a good reason why it's called a feminist bubble, because you do actually need to get out and find the world outside of it occasionally. And, if you don't do that, then you receive nasty surprises and you turn around and suddenly Trump is elected and you think, what the fuck? But the thing to recognise is that those bubbles are so special because they're not the real world, and they're special because every single day you can walk down the street and be catcalled or not be accepted for who you are. So it's really important to have that there and ready for you when you can access it, because you don't get that 95% of the time anywhere else. So the advice that I would give to younger girls and young people growing up today would just be understanding that the world isn't entirely equal, but you can help change that. Don't think that you alone can't make a difference, but make sure that you find your girl gang and your people that can help you do that. So you can't do it alone, and you should set out finding the people that can help you as soon as possible. So find people that have similar passions and similar ideas to you, and it's okay if your passions and your ideas aren't the same as everyone around you. It just means you haven't met your tribe yet, and you will, whether it be when you're like me and you were 25, 26, or whether it might be when you're 40, or you might meet your feminist girl gang when you're 10. But find them and start working together to change your slice of the world to be whatever you want it to be. I alone can't change the entire world, but I've met my fair share of other women that can help me do it.